Welcome back everyone, I'm Kate Plays Games, this is EVE Online, and you find me in a very strange place. I am in an asteroid belt. This is very strange for me, I never usually do mining. Why am I mining today? Well, because mining has had an absolutely fundamental change in how it works in EVE Online, so I thought I would make this video and solve some of the confusion that's been going around about it. So, what's changed? First things first, asteroid belts themselves have changed. They used to be arranged in crescents like this, and now they're in great big clumps. This icon here of the three balls, I'm not sure if you can see it, is very small. This is where you land when you warp to the belt, and as you can see, all the rocks are in a great big clump right around that warp-in point. They range from between 12 and 70 odd kilometers, at least in this system. I have checked all the asteroid belts in the system, and as we see, there are a hell of a lot of them, and they're all exactly like this, so they've all changed. And what else has changed in asteroid belts is that the amount of ore in them has doubled. That's right, there is now twice the amount of available ore in the entire game than there used to be. So that is fantastic. And on top of that, we now have a new game mechanic called mining residue. So, we'll explain how this works. So if we have a look at the mining lasers we're using, we see this thing, this residue probability and residue volume multiplier. So what is all this stuff about? Well, residue is a chance for some ore to be removed from the rock you are mining and vented into space. Now some people think that it takes it from your yield, it does not. So what will happen, if we can line this up nicely, is that every time we complete a cycle, each of these mining lasers will give us 2,412.64 cubic meters of material into our ship all the time. This never changes. But what this residue probability means is that 64% of the time, there is a 64% chance of 1 times our mining amount of material being ejected from the asteroid into space and lost, which reduces how much is left in the asteroid for us to mine later. This is how this works. You see, we do have a 64% residue probability because I'm using quite advanced lasers, and in fact that was perfect. It just happened just then. If you spotted it, I'll open the login messages. You go to Neocom Utilities login messages and we can have a look. So the first cycle I did, we mined 24,126 of dense feldspar with a lost residue of nothing. And this time we mined 24,126 units and we lost 24,126 units from the asteroid. So we always get our yield. Your yield is safe. And we can do some math and divide that by 4 and we will find out that we have got 4 lots of 24,126. So all that's happened is that 24,126 units of ore have been removed from this asteroid. This is how the residue thing works. I think we'll go right back to basics and we'll get a venture fit and we'll put a Tech 1 miner on it and a Tech 2 miner on it and we'll go through all the differences. Okay, so on a venture fitted exactly like this with my skills, a Tech 1 miner will get 170.31 cubic meters with a 0% residue probability. So Tech 1 miners do not waste any ore from the rocks, which is nice. And then if we open a Tech 2, put it alongside, line them up properly. So a Tech 2 will get 255.47, but it has a residue probability of 34% and a residue volume multiplier of 1. So every cycle there is a 34% chance of losing 1 times this from the rock. And you see, this is significantly more yield than the Tech 1. It's 50% more. So Miner 2 will bring in 50% more yield, but they'll waste some of the stuff from the rock. Now it's up to you whether you want to mine slowly with a Miner 1 and not waste any rock, or don't care about the residue because you've got twice as much ore in the asteroid belts to get and just go for a Tech 2 miner that'll waste some. This is true at all ship classes. This is the ship I'm in right now, and they're using strip miners, and strip miners work very differently from normal mining lasers. If we open the info page, Strip Miner 1 works very much like a Tech 1 mining laser. It has medium yield at 600, and it has residue probability of 0 and a residue volume multiplier of 0. So again, Tech 1 strip miners do not waste anything, but they don't mine very quickly. Now these Tech 2 strip miners, these need ammunition known as crystals to operate, and there are a hell of a lot of them. But there used to be even more of these. There used to be 2 different crystals, a Tech 1 and a Tech 2, for every single type of ore in the game, and that was a lot. It has since been compressed. If you look at this simple ore type A, this will mine plagioclase, pyroxeres, scordite and veldspar, otherwise known as all the Highsec rocks. So you only need this one type of crystal to mine ore, but then that is broken down into 3 different types. As we see, there is simple type A, simple type B and simple type C, and that comes in Tech 1 and Tech 2 variations. So how does all this stuff work then? Well, I'll tell you. We'll open them all out, line them up. So the type A has a residue probability bonus, 0. Remember, this is modifying the mining laser, and the mining laser itself has a residue probability of 34 and a multiplier of 1. So even though the asteroid type A says it has a probability bonus of plus 0, what it means is that it's changing this probability by 0. So there is still a probability of waste. Type B have a probability bonus of plus 20. So your 34 is plus 20'd, and the residue multiplier bonus is plus 0, so the residue volume will be 1. And the type C crystals are absolutely weird. These have absolutely terrible yield. See their asteroid specialization yield modifier, the type A and type B both increase your yield, and the type B reduce your cycle time, giving you more over time. But the type C reduces your yield by 75%, which means you're barely mining anything in your hold. But look down here, residue probability bonus plus 40, residue volume multiplier bonus plus 18. So all this means that type C actually end up with a 93% residue chance and a 29 times your yield residue ejection. So why would you use type C crystals? Well, in low sec and null sec, asteroids spawn in anomalies. They used to in Highsec, but that was removed quite some time ago. And what people would do, they would mine the good rocks, and then they wouldn't bother mining the terrible rocks, and then the anomalies would take 4 days to naturally time out and despawn, because no one wanted to spend the time it took to actually mine the crap rocks because they didn't want them. So now what you can do, you can load type C crystals and just demolish the rocks with these, because these things absolutely destroy rocks. I think I worked out that per second you're losing about 45 cubic meters of rock by using type Cs. So you'll just chew through the rocks, kill all the rocks, and then when all the rocks in the anomaly are gone, that anomaly will despawn and a new one will be generated, which will give you more good rocks that you want to mine. So type A can be summarised as medium yield, least residue. Type B is best yield, medium residue, and type C is worst yield and by far the biggest residue. And you're going to have to work out which one of these you want to use. A lot of people will use type A's. I like yield, so I'm going to be using type B's. Because all the asteroid belts have been doubled in volume, I don't really care about wasting a few units of it to space. I'd rather just mine it all quickly. So a Type A will be bringing in somewhere around 15 cubic meters a second. A Type B will be bringing in 19. A Type C will be bringing in 1.5. That's just the way it goes. Now these crystals also have a chance of taking damage per cycle until they're used up. When you mouse over, you'll see it says 10% damage on this one, 5% damage on that one. We've eaten another rock. Okay, so as I said, each cycle there is a chance of your mining crystals taking damage. This is this volatility thing here. So every cycle there is a 19.6% chance of it taking 0.050 hit points. And when this adds up to 1.0, the crystal breaks and needs to be replaced. Easy to replace, you just load them like ammunition. That's why I've got 4 on my cargo hold here. So you can do some math and work out how long each of the crystals will last on this particular ship with this particular fit. Tech 1 Type A's will last on average 9 hours. Tech 2 Type A will last 7.5. Tech 1 Type B will last just over 6 hours. Tech 2 Type B will last about 3.5. Tech 1 Type C will last 9 hours, and Tech 2 Type C will last 3 hours. So not only are Type A medium yield and least residue, they last significantly longer than Type B's. It's not quite double, but it's close to it, especially when it comes to Tech 2. I mean, just over 3.5 hours for Tech 2 crystals really isn't a lot. What else has changed is all the dedicated mining barges and exhumers have had huge changes, and for the most part, it's huge buffs. The Mackinac, which is what this ship is, its mining yield has been increased by 71%. Its effective hit points has gone up 170%. Its speed has gone up 44%, and its ore bay has gone up by 12.5%. So this is buffs across the board, all the way. And Hulk, which is the high yield low tank ship, well, it used to be low tank. Its strip miners have got a 63% yield bonus. Its tank has gone up by 173%, so you can get, if we load up this fit which I made on patch day, Hulks are now getting 41,000 effective hit points. This is up 173% on what they had before, which was 15, which is only barely survivable by a couple of catalysts. Now they're going to have to bring 4 or 5 even to kill a Hulk. The speed's up a little bit, ore bay's up 35%. Skiff has had some pretty big changes. Its yield is up 35%. Its effective hit points has stayed roughly the same. Its speed, however, has been reduced by 45%, and its align time is absolutely massive. Almost 15 seconds to get into what from a standing start. So if you get caught cold in a mining belt, you're just going to have to take what's coming your way. And one of the funniest things that changed is the Orca. Orca were primarily AFK ships using mining drones to mine, and as soon as changes were rumoured to be happening, and it was rumoured that Orcas were going to be nerfed into the ground, every idiot in the universe sold their Orca. And now, after the changes, they're all trying to buy them back and are having to pay through the nose to get them back, because they're idiots. Okay, the effective hit points in the Orca has roughly stayed the same. The resistances have stayed the same. Mining wise, they've actually had a 2% increase in yield. I mean, it's not the 70% or 30% we've seen on other ships, but they are mining more now than they were on the day before the patch. Their ore bay, fleet hangar and cargo have stayed the same. They've actually had a drone damage increase as well, up 17%, but they have got this new module, which is a large industrial core.
Is empty.
This works almost exactly the same way as Bastion does on a Marauder. Think of it as a mining Bastion and you won't go too far wrong. I'm not going to read out all these statistics because there are a hell of a lot of them. What it does is drone damage and hit points bonus up 50%, so when this is active you get plus 75% DPS, and with Tech 2 medium drones you'll get over 800 DPS on an Orca now, and that is, you can run level 4 missions on an Orca. It's ridiculous. And your drones get faster when this is active, your drone mining yield goes up. Only when this is active does your mining yield actually go up the 2%, which I said it did. So it is conditional on this being active. And like a Bastion, when this is active, it reduces your speed to 0. But this is quite good, because what people used to do, they would use extremely expensive faction harvester mining drones on their ship. If we have a look at them, we'll see how expensive they are. Mining drones. Harvester mining drone. Yeah, here we go. Harvester mining drones, 360 million each, and Orca pilots would use 5 of them. That's what, 1.5 billion in drones. And people would ram your Orca with a heavy and fast ship and knock it out of drone control range. Then they would ECM you to make you lose contact with your drones, and then they would steal your drones. You'd scoop them up and leave. And now we have the mining Bastion. You can't be bumped because you're locked in place. They will just bounce off you. You won't go anywhere. And when the mining Bastion is active, you have 100% resistance to ECM. So they can't ECM you to steal your drones either. So that bump and jam and steal the drones tactic is no longer valid. It gives you various other boosts to things like being remote sensor damped and things like that, but very much like a Bastion, you can't be remote repaired by anybody else when you're in Bastion mode, but that's fine, that's not a problem. One thing that might be a problem is again the activation. The cycle time is 150 seconds. So if someone warps in on you and you've just started a cycle, it's going to take you 150 seconds to spool down so you can warp out. So that won't be happening. If anyone wants to kill an Orca, they will bring enough ships to kill you before Concord turn up and kill them. So that's not a major concern. One concern is that this large industrial core mining Bastion actually consumes fuel, because Orcas have been given a new fuel bay, which we see here, fuel bay capacity 5,000 cubic meters. In each cycle this consumes 315 units of heavy water. Heavy water is mined from ice, which you can find pretty much across the galaxy. The prices of heavy water on the market are absolutely all over the place at the moment. It's impossible to say how much it's going to cost to fuel up an Orca. So every 150 seconds the Orca is going to consume 315 heavy water. And me being me, I have spreadsheeted this. So when you get level 5 skills in Industrial Core, I'm only level 4. When you get level 5, that will drop to 295 units needed. And each unit of heavy water is 0.4 cubic meters. And that means in a 5,000 cubic meter fuel bay, you can fit 12,500 of them. Which means you have enough fuel to last 42 cycles at 150 seconds each, which works out at 150 minutes. So this means that your Orca is limited to being on station with the industrial core running for 150 minutes before it has to go back to station and get some more fuel. Now you're going to have to figure out the fuel costs. So you're going to have to take the cost of the fuel into account if you're going to be using an Orca. But then Orca aren't really for mining anymore. I mean, they do mine more than they used to, but that is offset by the cost of the fuel, which we don't know how much that is at the minute. Unless you go and find a system that has ice belts and mine it yourself, you're going to be paying for it. And as I said, the prices are all over the place. But Orca are still supremely good at boosting other ships, with their mining foreman bursts and shield bursts and all kinds of things like that. And Orca will be increasing the range of everyone else's strip miners by 124%. So on something like a Hulk, if you're using a fleet with one Orca in the middle being used as a cargo ship in protection, Hulks will get strip miner ranges somewhere around 45 kilometers. That's right, 45 kilometers. And even the Nullsec Rorqual, which is a capital ship version of an Orca, they've actually figured out if they use a single Rorqual and then 2 or 3 Hulks, they get way more yield than they ever used to by using 3 or 4 Rorquals. And everyone's been raging and upset about these mining changes, but as I've just told you, almost everything has been buffed across the board. Even Orcas have been buffed. I know you're paying for fuel, but you can't be bumped and your DPS has gone all the way up, so it's all a huge bonus. Well, it seems you've been quite unlucky with our residue rolls. There is a 64% chance of it happening, and we've only had 5 cycles where it didn't happen, but that's how percentages work. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. So that is how mining works in EVE Online now. Hope you found this somewhat informative. If you need any more information, just post a comment down below and ask me for it, like all the ship fittings. I'm not sure if I'll put all the ship fittings into the description below. I might do. Until we come back and meet each other again, do take very good care of yourselves. I'll talk to you later.